Hello, and welcome to the Palma Pioneer Pantry. My name is Marin. Today we're going through all the dinners we ate during week 6 of the Pantry Challenge. We had a lot of leftovers from last week, which ended up being a good thing because I had a lot going on this week. And so we'll be eating a lot of leftovers. I won't necessarily show all of that. But to start out, we're going to go through my meal planning again because I wanted to show you how I decide what meals to have on what days. So we'll get started with that. So the first thing I do when I am meal planning for the week is look at our calendar for the week. I look at my calendar and at my husband's calendar, and I just put in kind of any appointments. So I know on Monday I work outside the home, and on Tuesday I work outside the home, and then my husband works outside the home Wednesday through Saturday, but I don't need to write that down because he gets home at about the same time every week. I know that on Tuesday I have a meeting at 6:30 that night as well, and then on Thursday I know I have some meetings, but I'm not sure what time they'll be. I just know, I just write it down so I know, okay, I'm gonna have things happening on that day. Okay, so I also know that on Thursday, in addition to those meetings that might happen earlier in the day, I have an appointment at 4 that I have to leave at 3:30, and I don't know how long that appointment is going to be, so I need to have dinner just set aside already on Thursday. And I'm not seeing any special appointments for my husband, so if something comes up I'll add that in and adjust as needed. And so then I will come over to my meals column, and I know that we have tons of leftovers in the fridge right now from last week, so Sunday and Monday are going to both be leftovers. We normally have tacos on Thursday, but since I know that I'm not going to be home for dinner on that night, I'm going to move it to Tuesday. Let's see. And this is where it gets kind of hard. I have some suggestions that have been given. I know, oh, that's right. So last week we were going to have a chicken parm recipe recommended by Roxy06. I can open that up without letting you see my entire planner. So I had chicken parm and rice on Sunday last week, and we didn't end up having that because I didn't have all of the ingredients. So I think we're going to put that on Wednesday. Thursday, I need a meal that I can just have in the crock pot. Actually, you know what? Thursday we're going to have leftovers again, because I'm pretty sure I can make enough from the tacos and or the chicken parm to have leftovers that night, because then if I need to take something with me, I can just take a sandwich, and leftovers is easy for Jose to heat up for himself and our son. Friday, I want to try making beef stroganoff again. I made it a few weeks ago, and it didn't quite turn out the way I had hoped, and so I'd like to try that again. And then on Saturday, so because Thursday is such a busy day, I'm expecting Saturday to be very much a catch-up day for me, so I want something easy and simple. So I think we're going to have Instant Pot salmon. That night. And then now that I've got something written on all the days, on those days that I'm actually cooking a meal, I'm going to go back and add some kind of starch and a vegetable to most of these days. So for tacos, the last time we had tacos, I actually made corn on the cob from some frozen corn cobs that I did over the summer, and we really liked that, so I'm gonna have that again. I know that's not quite the same kind of vegetable. My mom would say, corn's not a vegetable, it's a grain. And that's true, but we're also having beans with the tacos, so maybe I'll get some lettuce or something. We don't usually put lettuce on our tacos, but maybe we'll try it. And then we'll have corn on the cob, and we don't really need a starch because of the beans and the tortillas. With the chicken parm, we're gonna have rice, and that's going to be a fairly labor-intensive meal, I think, because I've never made it before, so we'll just do steamed broccoli. With the beef stroganoff, we've got lots of cans of mixed veggies, and so we're going to do that, and I will just warm those up with a little bit of butter and salt. And then with the salmon, I think with the salmon we'll do green beans. And I'm gonna, and with the beef stroganoff we always have pasta. I guess I should write that in. And then with the salmon we will have either rice or pasta, depending on if we have leftovers, and depending on how much time, if we have leftover rice, we'll have rice, and if we don't have any leftovers, we will have pasta, because I prefer to make rice in the Instant Pot, and I can't do salmon and rice at the same time in the Instant Pot. So after I've got everything written out, I'll go over to this prep column, and I know for tacos, we like to have refried beans, and I make those from scratch, so the night before, I need to soak the beans, and you don't have to do this when you're cooking them in the Instant Pot, but I just like to. For the chicken parm, I'm not 100% sure, I'd have to look up the recipe, but I don't think there's anything I need to do the night before. I just need to take the chicken out probably 2 days before, so we'll put that here. Take out chicken. And then leftovers, there's nothing I need to do. The beef stroganoff I will do with our canned beef chunks, so I don't need to do anything for that. But it might be nice, I'm going to put it on this day because I do need to caramelize the onions, and that takes a long time. And since Thursday is going to be busy, I'm not going to put it on Thursday, but if I have extra time on Thursday, I will do that the day before and just put them in the fridge. And then for the Instant Pot salmon, we can cook it from frozen, but in order to make sure that I actually do it and that I remember, I am going to try to pull that out on Thursday. Because it also, I think it soaks in the butter and the lemon juice a little bit better if you have the salmon already thawed rather than cooking it straight from frozen. So that is our meal plan for this week. As I said last week, often things change and we move things around, so if that happens I will keep you updated, and let's get started. On Sunday and Monday we had leftovers just like I planned, and on Tuesday we actually still had leftover taco stuff from last week, so we had that. So I realized, how am I supposed to be asking you guys for cooking advice if I never show you me cooking? And I've been very lax about showing you the actual process of cooking our meals. So I'm trying to be better this week. Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, all 3 of those days we had leftovers because I made way too much food last week. So tonight is the first night that we're cooking a new meal. Today's Wednesday, and I am starting off by caramelizing some onions. We're not going to use this many onions in our meal tonight, but I am planning to use onions also in our meal on Saturday, whichever day we're having beef stroganoff. I also want onions for that. So I am caramelizing these up. I put butter in my pan and olive oil and heated that up, and I just got a food processor, and so I used that to chop my onions really fine. I did overfill the food processor a little bit, so there are a few pieces that didn't quite get chopped as fine as the rest. Lessons learned, and it'll be fine. They just won't get quite as caramelized as the others. So yeah, I'm going to caramelize these onions, and then we're going to use them as part of our white sauce for the chicken Parmigiana. I will Google how to pronounce that word and let you know. So thank you, Roxy06, for the recipe, and I'm looking forward to trying it tonight. So the onions are nicely browned. I did have to take them off the heat for a minute because they started to get too brown while I was peeling the garlic. I had a head of garlic in the fridge that was starting to sprout. Isn't that cool? And I think it will be fine to have garlic in the beef stroganoff as well, so I'm just going to add it now. So I just peeled the whole head, and then I really hate mincing garlic, so I got a garlic press. And I don't know if I'm using it right, so feel free to tell me, hey, you're using it wrong, or hey, those should be in smaller pieces, or whatever the right answer is. I'm not supposed to be using this knife on the cutting board. I learned today. I got my knives sharpened today by a really nice Cutco representative. And I'm really excited about it. Because everything is chopping so much better now. Come on. Okay. So yes, I always recommend Cutco knives to anyone who uses knives when they cook. Because I've had mine for years, and even before I cooked a lot, they made what cooking I did do way easier. And now that I'm cooking a lot, I needed to get them sharpened because they haven't been sharpened in 5 years or more. And let me tell you, having sharp knives makes the kitchen such a happier place. And this garlic press also makes the kitchen a happier place, although it is very messy. It's better than having to mince the garlic myself. Okay, so got, probably only half a head of garlic in there. And this was 1 large and 1 medium onion, because that's what I happened to have upstairs when I started. So I'm just going to cook this garlic just for a little bit, and then we'll take out 2/3 of the mixture and save it for the beef stroganoff. And then we will get started on our white sauce. Okay, so I ended up just taking all of that onion garlic mixture out of the pan because I realized that I only have frozen butter, and so it's going to take a while to melt. And we're only going to probably use about half a stick of butter, so a 1/4 cup of butter. Grab a knife. Just got them sharpened. This is what I get for not using a cutting board. Well, and this one's not supposed to be used on a cutting board, theoretically, but Well, I ordered a knife sharpener, so hopefully I'll be able to sharpen it up myself. And I don't think I chipped it. Do you ever have that happen where, like, right after you buy something or right after you get something like really clean or get your knives sharpened, you feel even worse anytime anything bad happens to it? Like, if that had happened before I got them sharpened, it's a knife. But since I just had it sharpened, I'm like, wait, did I ruin it? Anyway, kind of silly. Put the rest of this butter back in the... Okay, and then we're going to wait for the rest of this butter to melt. And then I will add about a quarter cup of flour. Mix that together. And then I will whisk in some milk. I wish I had whipping cream or heavy cream or whole milk, but all I have is 2% at the moment, so that's what we're going to use. Although I do have some turkey broth left over from last week that I haven't used yet, so I'm actually going to put that in first, and then I'll use milk for the rest of it. So yeah, once this butter gets melted, I will bring it up. Okay, so butter's all melted. Probably do a little bit less, just slightly less than a quarter of a cup of flour. Sprinkle that in. I did turn the heat down because I felt like it was cooking too fast, the butter. I don't know. And we will mix all that flour in. My stove is not perfectly level, so any kind of liquid, whether it's butter or oil or anything, it always collects down here. Actually, I'm going to add a little bit more flour because I want to make sure that this sauce actually thickens up. It's not looking kind of chunky like I would expect the roux. Woo, that was more than I intended to put in at one time. It doesn't look quite as chunky as I would expect a roux to look. Is that accurate, that a roux should look chunky before you add the liquid? It's looking a little bit better. I think we are just going to add the rest of that. And then mix this in. Let it cook for just a second while I get the broth. While I get the broth out of the fridge. I'm not going to put this back in my bowl because I'm not using all of the onion right now. Okay, so I got my turkey broth. I probably got 2 cups, a pint of broth left in here. I am going to use my whisk while I add this. So we can try to have a smooth sauce. I really should be doing this with opposite hands. I am right-handed. No, this is called a white sauce, but I must have cooked the butter too much because it's definitely looking more like a brown sauce, which wouldn't that just be a gravy, I guess? It doesn't really matter what color it is. It's just that is nice and thick. Okay. And we're just gonna whisk this until it both smooths out and thickens up. And then we'll start adding milk. Actually, I think I'm going to add the onions and garlic before I start adding the milk. Let them kind of impregnate the sauce with their flavor. What's that word? Infuse. Infuse. One of Roxy06, the one who gave me this recipe, one of her suggestions when I said that we don't particularly like tomato sauce, one of her suggestions was to do a garlic infused white sauce. And so that's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm just also adding onions because I like onions, especially caramelized onions. Alright, so we're just going to put in maybe a third of that. Just one good scoop. And I have canned chicken that didn't seal in the fridge, so we're going to be using that instead of fresh raw chicken breasts, which is why I'm not worried about getting the chicken cooked at the same time as I'm making the sauce in order to have everything done at the same time. While I let the sauce cook and thicken up a little bit, I got out my jars of chicken. I didn't want to add any more broth to the sauce, so I transferred it into one jar to save it for later. I noticed that the sauce was starting to form a little bit of a skin on top, so I stirred that back up and turned off the heat. My camera stopped filming without me noticing, but I poured the sauce over the chicken in the baking dish and put it in the oven at 375 until the sauce started to bubble. So this is dinner. It's all done. I know I didn't get everything on film, but I did add mozzarella cheese to the top of this after the sauce started to bubble, and then I turned it on broil for about 5 or 10 minutes, and we're just gonna plate that up with a bunch of pasta. On Thursday, I ended up getting back from my appointment in plenty of time to make dinner, so I made tacos so that we could have those on Thursday like we normally do. So I decided I'm feeling really good right now. I'm going to be brave. I'm going to try some sauce on part of my taco. This is Van Quirtle Flavor Science sauce. I'll link it down below because it's a local to us company. Their sauces are really good. My husband really loves them. And he says this one is not really spicy at all. When I smell it, it smells spicy. So I'm a little bit nervous because black pepper was spicy to me until very recently. But I'm going to try just a little bit in here with the beans and the meat. Okay. Now I know that looks like a teeny tiny amount, but this is me we're talking about. If you can hear our son in the background, he's excited that Mommy's trying something new. Okay, so in that amount, it's not spicy. Oh, the aftermath going down my throat is a little bit spicy, just a tiny bit. But I think I would try it again another time. Not right now, but we're getting there. So we had a surprisingly busy day today, and I did not get to the beef stroganoff we were planning on having, but luckily I made lots of the chicken parm recipe, and so that's what we're having for dinner tonight. On Saturday, I made beef stroganoff. I started by putting the caramelized onion and garlic mixture that I made on Wednesday into my Dutch oven and letting that start to warm up while I opened a few cans of mushrooms, drained them, and then mixed them in with the onions. After the mixture was warmed through, I added half a cup of flour and mixed that in and let it cook for a few minutes. I canned some meat last week and a couple of quarts of beef didn't seal properly, so I stuck them in the fridge and now we're going to use them up. First, I'll use the broth in the sauce. When you can meat, the fat in the meat melts and rises to the top. Then as it cools, it hardens, and sometimes that makes it hard to pour the broth out of the can. also have a quart of beef broth that I canned before Christmas that I'll use for the rest of the liquid in this sauce. There's a little bit of browning stuck to the bottom of the pan. I think it's called a fond. Anyway, I'm also using the broth to deglaze the pan and get that brown stuff unstuck and mixed into the sauce. At this point, I decided to switch to my whisk to try to make sure the sauce was smooth. For seasoning, I added Worcestershire sauce, salt, and black pepper. I added the meat to the sauce, but it didn't seem to be thickening up the way I wanted it to, and things also seemed to be burning to the bottom of the pan. So I poured most of it into a different pot and used a ladle to move some of the sauce back to the original pot in an attempt to deglaze the pan yet again before it really burned. Surprisingly, it actually seemed to work. Do any of you have ideas of why this can happen in the first place? What can I do to prevent it from happening next time? After saving the pan from burning, I started ladling the sauce back into the original pan to see if it would thicken up now. The sauce still wasn't thickening up like I wanted it to, so I decided to try adding some cornstarch, thinking that would work better than flour. It did not work better than flour. Maybe it's because I didn't sift it, so it was clumpy. Do any of you have ideas of how you can fix a sauce if it doesn't seem to be thickening up? Do I just need to be more patient? I did try to whisk it in, but that didn't really help and just made a mess of my whisk. I finally gave up and just picked out the biggest clumps of cornstarch and moved on. I poured the rest of the stroganoff back into the pot so it was all together for the last step. Finally, I turned off the heat and added a whole container of sour cream. I forgot this the first time I made stroganoff and it tasted like absolutely nothing. I also added a bunch of dried parsley and then mixed it all together. The sauce did seem to thicken up a little bit by the time I poured it on my noodles, and it tasted really good, so I think that's a win in the end. And that was week 6. I tried to show more of my cooking process this time. If you have any advice or suggestions for me, please leave them in the comments down below. I love learning from you guys. Like I said, our recipe for the chicken parm from Roxy06 was just delicious. It's something I plan on adding to our regular rotation. If you want to see more videos of what we've been eating during this pantry challenge, I will pop a video up right here. If you're interested in following along with us as we continue to learn to cook from scratch, as we grow some food, preserve it, and store food for our family, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the Palma Pioneer Pantry.